I really should have listened to my gut on this one.
I'm a goddamn national hero, and don't you forget it. I'm just getting started.
Directed by Gus Van Sant, Dead Man's Wire is a faithful retelling of a 1977 hostage standoff that took place in Indianapolis. It stars Pennywise, Billy from Stranger Things, Coleman Domingo, Cary Elwes, and Al by God Pacino. It has a 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes as of this writing, and has one of the best trailers I've seen in the past year. I was genuinely thrilled when I was sent the screener for this one, but right as I hit the play button, a tiny little question popped up in the back of my mind. Why haven't I heard anything about this before now? See, normally when a film gets a January release, it's a massive red flag. But there's also this weird window where some films that made it onto the festival circuit don't get their wide release in the States until the first few weeks of the following year. Sometimes it works in a film's favor, especially if they're actively in award season contention. While other times, a good film can wind up getting lost in the shuffle and left off a lot of best of the year lists through no real fault of its own. Better Man is a perfect example from last year. If you still haven't seen it, fix that. And after everything I've just told you, you'd think Dead Man's Wire would be a contender for all of those best of the year conversations, popping up on top 10 lists left and right and in the running for a few major awards. It's got a stacked cast, a highly regarded director, it's a period piece recapturing a real-life event, and touches on some modern-day issues. But by midway through the third act, that question that I had came roaring back, and I finally had an answer. Despite that great trailer and a pretty solid performance from Bill Skarsgård, Dead Man's Wire is a thoroughly unremarkable film. The movie tells the story of Tony Karitsis, an Indianapolis man who had gotten his hands on some undeveloped real estate and was negotiating with businesses to build on his new property. He winds up behind on his mortgage payments and is convinced the father-son duo that runs a local brokerage firm is out to sabotage him so they can get the land for themselves. He takes action by walking into their office and holds Raymond Hall, played by Dacre Montgomery, at gunpoint and forces him to wear a dead man's wire, which is really just a series of metal wires that would cause Tony's shotgun to fire if he winds up getting apprehended or killed. What follows is a 63-hour standoff at Tony's apartment with his shotgun pointed at the back of Raymond's head. And I won't spoil how, in case you're unfamiliar with the story, but it does stick to what happened in real life. The first act is excellent, giving a real sense that so many people were thrown off by the situation even happening and how unprepared they were to handle it. But once all the pieces are in place, you're left waiting to see what take Van Sant has on the situation, only to be hit with the realization that the film wants to do a faithful retelling and nothing else. In a lot of ways, it's like what he did with Psycho. My frustration with the film is just how uncurious it winds up being. It effectively yada-yadas its way through the events that led up to Tony going on his rampage, and doesn't feel the need to ask any questions about it on the back end. Is Tony the victim of an unfair system, or did he merely fail to live up to his end of a deal he willingly signed up for? Did the brokers actually do anything wrong? Was Tony right in his theory that they wanted the land for themselves? Was all of this the result of an inherently broken system in American society that ultimately doesn't work for anyone? The film doesn't seem interested in exploring any of that. I could see an argument for that last one, but it gets jumbled once you learn what ultimately happened to Tony. It really just makes for a mess of a story that can't do more than go, hey, look at this crazy thing that happened in Indy about 50 years ago. I feel like one of the easiest fixes for the film would have been if they had just narrowed down the perspective to maybe one or two characters. Because it constantly jumps from one character's POV to another, the audience always knows more than the characters on screen, and that definitely takes away some of the tension for what's supposed to be a gripping, edge-of-your-seat, life-and-death situation. But if the camera stays glued to one perspective, the audience only knows as much as that one character, and suddenly that lack of knowledge makes the standoff all the more uncertain. Tony genuinely believes that he's in the right and thinks that he's found a way to get out of the situation scot-free. Richard finds himself in a wrong place, wrong time situation, which feels like an extension of being under the thumb of his domineering father. Cary Elwes' police chief is constantly taken aback that he's even in a situation like this, and that the guy brandishing the shotgun is somebody he knows. Myhala's Linda Page is a local TV reporter who gets her big break by forcing her way into covering the hostage situation from its opening minutes. By the way, a lot of retellings of the story have focused on the media's reaction to it both locally and nationally, but the movie isn't interested in interrogating that either. And then there's Domingo as Fred Temple, a smooth-talking radio host who gets looped into the hostage negotiations thanks to Tony being a fan of his show. There's a better version of this film that centers around just him, and whoever cut together this trailer seems to agree with me. Look, I know it's January, and right now a lot of critics are holding their noses for these first few weeks in the hopes that The Bone Temple lives up to the hype. But if you're trying to catch up on all the late award season releases, you can honestly skip this one. It had great potential, but ultimately, there's nothing really here. But what'd you guys think? If you had the chance to see Dead Man's Wire, let me know what you thought of the film down in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.